Hi and welcome to Stella's Meza. On today's episode, I will show you my family's recipe for Maharagwe, which is just red kidney beans cooked in coconut milk. It's quite simple and very delicious. For this, you're going to need some red kidney beans, and if you go to my blog, I'll show you how to prepare it before you cook this recipe, so make sure you check that out. It's www.stellasmeza.blogspot.com. Now you'll also need some coconut milk, and you need the heavy coconut milk. Don't skimp and go for that light coconut milk. It won't be the same. You'll need some cooking oil. You will need some tomatoes. I use some pureed tomatoes. You can use just regular tomatoes. You'll need ginger garlic paste. You'll need some cilantro chopped, some minced onions. You'll need some salt. And here I have curry, coriander, cumin, and red chili powder. And for this recipe, I'm going to be using my pressure cooker. You can also use a heavy buttoned pan. Right, to start off, you're going to put some cooking oil in your pan, and then you're going to add your chopped onions, and you're trying to sweat them. That means not browning them, but just drawing the moisture out of them until they look almost transparent. After which, you're going to add some ginger garlic paste to the mix. And you want to give it a good stir. And keep stirring at this point because the garlic is quick to burn. So you want to make sure you don't burn it. Just give it a good stir. Now, once you've given it a good stir and the garlic is not raw anymore, you're going to add your chili powder in here. Now, you can also use some small green chili peppers, like whole ones. And if you like your food spicy, you can leave the seeds in. If you don't want your food that spicy, but you want some kick to it, take the seeds out, okay? But I opted to use just chili powder. And I'm giving that a good stir to make sure everything's well mixed. And then I'm going to add my pureed tomatoes, right? If you opt to use whole tomatoes, just use 3 medium tomatoes chopped, right? I do that. I use a pureed kind. That way I don't have the skins floating on top of the beans once I've cooked it. So I prefer it this way. So what I'm doing here is just giving it a good stir, make sure everything's well mixed. As you can see, right there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add the curry powder. Once I add this, I'm going to give it a good stir. And then I'm going to let it cook for around 2 to 3 minutes just to cook down some of that taste. It's not a bad taste. It's just an acquired taste. Some people are not used to it. So for those people like my husband, I make sure I always cook it down first. And then I'm going to add the rest of the spices, the coriander and the cumin. And I'm going to give it a good stir. Make sure everything's nicely mixed. All the spices are well distributed in that tomato mixture. You see that? And I wish you could smell this. Smelled amazing. Okay, so next we're going to add in there our beans. So you're going to pour them in there. And you're going to give them a good stir to make sure they're well coated with that spice and tomato mixture. As you can see, you want to prepare your beans in such a way that you can pull the white part out without breaking the bean. Okay, and if you go to my blog, you'll see exactly how to prepare it. It involves soaking the beans just to soften them, adding some salt to that soaking water to make sure that the skins stay on. And if you're using a pressure cooker like I did here, I let them come to a boil for a little bit, and then I rinse them out and soak them again. But you want to make sure they're nicely coated just like that. See that? It's starting to look nice and thick. Look at that. We're in progress. So you're going to add some salt, and you add according to how much salt you like. Just make sure you taste it. If you want more salt, I added a couple pinches in there. If you want more salt, add some more. And then I have here some chopped cilantro. In some parts of the world they call it coriander. That's what I have there. And I'm just going to add and stir. Keep adding and stirring. Just make sure. I add this to give it some nice color, some flakes of green and a sea of brown. That doesn't hurt anything. Just make it look nice and also to add some flavor. And I'm giving it a good stir there. Next, we're going to add in our coconut milk. Remember to use the real thing, the heavy coconut milk from the first pressing. You don't want to use the watery stuff. The taste will not be the same. You're going to compromise on the flavor. So just make sure you use the whole coconut milk like I'm doing here. And you want to give it a nice stir. Make sure everything's well mixed. And then we're going to let this come to a boil on high heat. See that? It's now nicely bubbling. And then we're going to reduce the heat to medium. We're going to cover, and then we're going to let it cook for 25 to 30 minutes if you're not using a pressure cooker. If you're using a pressure cooker, mine only took 15 minutes. And as you can see, here's a finished product. Look at that. Look at that. Feed your eyes, people. Ooh, ooh. And they're not, if you press the beans between your fingers, they're not too mushy, just right. Not hard, not mushy, just right. And that's the importance of soaking the beans before you cook them. Or you're going to end up with some pretty looking beans like that, but when you bite into them, they're going to be hard. Now what I have here is some chapati. Nice layered, flaky chapati. Look at that. Ooh, 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 ooh. And that goes perfectly with the beans. You can also serve them up with some white rice or any other starch like ugali you can eat it with. Now to get the recipe for these chapatis, make sure to visit my blog. It's under the chapati post, or check out my chapati video on YouTube. And I'm gonna not be mean and let you have a taste. Look at that. Say ah. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me this time. I hope you join me next time as I take your taste buds on another culinary safari. Thank you, and karibu to Stella's Meza.
Yeah, 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 yeah.